before the video starts, I wanted to give you guys a look at my newest product, the supply bag. I designed it myself after going through a bunch of different bags. It didn't really work with how I move day to day. It's made from 16-ounce stonewashed canvas, has 13 pockets with 2 laptop sleeves, and this front strap closure detail that keeps everything inside very secure. If you're a creator on the go or just someone who moves around a lot in general, it's absolutely essential, and it's available now at quattrosupply.com. And now let's get back to our video. What's good, y'all? I'm sure you've seen these style of nylon tracksuits all over your Pinterest or Instagram or even TikTok, and I assure you designing one of your own is a lot simpler than it looks. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I would design a simple nylon tracksuit in just a few easy steps. These sets are actually pretty fun to create. There's a ton of customization potential, and they're a really good way to really hone in on some of those key design skills. So I hope you guys can learn something from this, so be sure to follow along and let's jump right into it. Okay, so first things first, of course, we want to open up a new canvas. Today's canvas that we're going to be working with is 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels, and we're going to have that at 300 DPI. And the first thing that we always want to do when we start a new canvas is set up a drawing guide. So let's go ahead and do that and make sure that's set to symmetry. And then we're going to create a new layer. So now let's go ahead and find the mockup that we want to be working with today. For this, I'm going to go to Quattro's tops and then locate the shell jacket front brush. And this is going to act as our top for our nylon tracksuit. And I'm just going to go ahead and tap that down one time on our screen, and it should appear like that. And now what we want to do is just expand this out and make sure our lines here are centered to the middle of our screen. We can keep everything pretty aligned that we're working with here and expand that out. So now that we have this base template set, I want to make a couple quick adjustments, and I'm just going to go to any kind of brush and I'm going to erase these 2 pockets, and I'm also going to erase the stitch detail because we're going to be adding in some of our own details here in a second to our design. So just gonna go through and erase these really quick. Okay, and that looks pretty good. So now what I want to do is go ahead and duplicate this layer, and I'm gonna name this top layer our outline, and I'm gonna lock our outline layer down. So now we have this outline, and I'm gonna name this bottom one color. And for this one, we're gonna lay down the base color for our design. For this, I'm thinking like a darker blue, almost like a blueberry grape kind of color. And we're just gonna drop that down. And we're gonna take this color that we just dropped down and we're gonna put it below our color layer. And then from here, what we wanna do is just merge these 2 together. So that's just a pinch and it will combine the 2 layers. Now let's go to our selection tool up here and then go to automatic selection. And as we see, our entire canvas is covered by this color, and that's not what we want. We only want the color to show up on our mockup. So what we're gonna do is tap outside of our mockup, and the background should change colors. For some reason, if your background doesn't change colors, that means you need to adjust your selection threshold. So if your selection does show up like this, what you wanna do is just go ahead and clear it, and then you wanna tap one time on the outside, and then you can drag to the left, and then that'll show up here your selection threshold, the amount, the percentage. So let's just clear it one more time. And usually what I like to do is start out at 0, and 0 usually gets you to where you need to go. Of course, if we increase it, so now we're at about 30%, and it's covering our entire mockup, and that's again not what we want. So we're just gonna clear that, reset, and click one time on our background, and then we're gonna take this background now, and we can drag that right off of our screen, and that only leaves our mockup. Okay, so from here now we have our outline and our color, and we want to create a new layer, and we're going to set this layer to white, and we want to find an inking brush. I'm going to go with the studio pen from just the basic PROCREATE brushes, and from here now we're going to start customizing and really making this tracksuit our own. This is where you can get really creative with things, and for this I'm just going to be freestyling off the top of my head here. So let's go ahead and throw some details down and see how that looks. So I think I'm going to start out with a kind of curved shape here, and also I can go through and edit that arc as well by just continuing to hold down on the screen, and that looks pretty nice. Now I'm gonna go down here over to our sleeve, and I'm gonna draw a straight line like so, and I think that's creating a pretty nice shape so far. Usually what you see on these nylon style tracksuits is some lines that kind of dictate the shapes for our design, and that's usually called piping. So we have our piping layer here, and we're gonna add in another layer here, and we can call this our shape layer, okay? So we have our color, our shape, and our piping, and on our shape layer here, what I wanna do is find a nice steel kind of gray color, still with a little bit of a purple tint to it, but just a lot lighter. And now we can just go to any kind of fat brush. I'm just gonna go with the soft airbrush, and on our shape layer I can start coloring in. But as we see here, it's going outside of our mockup, so we want to make sure that our shape is selected to clipping mask, so that clips to our base color template. So now we can color right on this with no worries of it bleeding off onto our canvas, because we want to keep everything on our mock-up, of course. And now I'm just going to go through and start coloring in this shape that we've created here. Now that we have this shape detail with the piping on the outer of it, I think this is looking really nice so far. So now what we can do is add in some detailing to really start making this mock-up pop. So I'm going to add in another layer on top of our piping and our shape layer, also making sure this is set to clipping mask, and we're going to rename this shadows because this is going to be our shadows layer. Okay, so for the shadows, I'm still set to this soft airbrush here. I have my color selected to black, and I'm gonna go to this in here, and I'm just gonna turn the opacity down off rip to about 65 so we can really see what we're working with here. And I also wanna make sure that we're set to drawing assist. And the drawing assist will just help with creating the shadows on both sides, so we don't have to do everything twice. We can just do it in one kind of go. So now with the shadows, the first thing that I like to do is start over here kind of in the sleeve area, right where the body meets the sleeve. And just kind of go down this line here and start shading in some parts here, and just kind of following the natural curve of the mock-ups as well. That's kind of a good rule of thumb or base to show you how the shadows would kind of form on the mock-up. And I'm gonna go over on the shoulder a little bit as well, and just being a little bit messy with it here because we're gonna go back through and clean it up here in a second, but really just laying the base down for our shadows. And we're already seeing it kind of pop off the screen a little bit. I'm gonna turn the opacity down a little bit more though. Let's go for about 40, and I'm also gonna make sure we get the hood as well. And now that's kind of our base shadows. I'm gonna click on our layer though and select a mask. And with this mask, what I can do is just kind of go back through and tighten up any of these areas that I need cleaned up without erasing anything permanently. So now that we have our shadows, what I want to do is add one more layer, again clipping mask, and this one is going to be set to white for now, but we're going to turn the opacity down again to about 50%, and this is just going to be our highlights layer. So we're going to rename this highlights. And nylon does have a bit of a shine to it compared to other fabrics. And here's a quick trick for the highlights. So as we see with the shadows, what I did is I kind of outlined this shape, and there's an obvious gap in between here, and that's kind of where our highlights are going to fit in. So we're going to make sure we're also set to drawing assist here. And now what we can do is just go in this gap and add a slight bit of shine to this. And we can tweak this a little bit too, turn that down to maybe about 20%, and then also up here around the hood area as well. And with the shine and the shadows, those are two things that you can really play around with and punch up as much as you'd want to, just depending on your style, depending on how you want to do your mock-ups. I like to leave my highlights pretty faint, just so you get a little hint of the texture a little bit. And then also we have this big space here on the main body, so I'm just going to go through and add in a little bit of highlighting here. And also on this highlight layer, what I'm going to do is go to our layer options, and I'm going to turn this to add, and as we see, that kind of punches up the highlights in some certain areas as well. Now with our highlights, our shadows, and our detailing here, I think the last thing that I want to do here is just go ahead and add in a simple graphic. So I'm just going to go to our tools up here. I'm going to add in some text. This font here that I have selected is called Violetta. I'll be sure to link it in the description below, but I'm just going to type out supply, SPLY here, and just kind of adjust that to size and move that right about here. And yeah, I think that looks really nice. So now that we have our tracksuit top, the next thing that I want to do is create some complementary bottoms to go along with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed run that using the exact same steps and methods and layers. Everything that I just showed you here, we're going to rinse and repeat that onto some bottoms. So let's jump right into that. So here we are again on our new canvas, and for this I'm going to go to Quattro's bottoms and go to the baggy sweats front, and then of course just drop that down, again adjust that to size. So now again I'm just going to rinse and repeat those steps so we have the complementary pants to go with our tracksuit top. And now that we're wrapping up with our pants here, what I want to do is just go back to our top, and I'm going to grab that supply graphic and just go ahead and copy that onto our pants. Place that right about there. I think looks pretty nice. And of course, with this being a matching top and bottom set, we want to make sure that our top matches our bottom. Everything looks nice, everything's cohesive. So what we want to do is just go ahead and package all of this up. So we're going to slide right on everything, and then we're going to group it up. And now we can duplicate this layer, and now in this duplicated group we're just going to flatten it, and we can call this our final here. And the main reason that we group everything up and flatten it here is in case we want to go back to our base here and we want to adjust some colors. So if we wanted to maybe make this blue, if we want to turn this black, we could do that. If we wanted to make the shape here, if we want to turn this red, we also have the opportunity to do that. So, and that was just a quick look at how we'd kind of approach doing some kind of colorways if we wanted to create some variations for our pants. But let's stay focused on our blue and silver design here. So now we can copy this and we're going to take this to a new canvas. Our new canvas can just be 4,000 by 4,000 again. And we're going to go ahead and paste down our pants. And we want to go back to our top layer and again, group it all up, duplicate it, flatten, copy, and then we're going to take that to our new canvas here where we have our two final copy designs. So we're just going to adjust our top here to size, and then we can also adjust our pants here to size and kind of lay out how these would look next to each other. Then we can group these. And now let's just put these in the middle. And as we see, there's this swoop kind of motif that is carried out throughout both our top and our bottom that really just helps punch up that cohesiveness. Of course, all the colors are the same and everything like that. And again, if we wanted to go back to our mockups and make any adjustments to anything, we have the opportunity to do so, whether that's a color change, whether that's a font change, anything here. We still have our working group here where any of these colors can be inverted or tweaked or anything like that. But I think that about wraps up our design here. I think our blue and silver, this nylon vintage style kind of tracksuit looks great. And yeah, if you learned something, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. The supply pack and other products of mine are available now on my website at quadrasupply.com. So if you're interested, definitely be sure to check that out. There's also a lot we didn't get to go over today, which is fine. Just be sure to leave a comment below of what you want to see more of, and I got y'all with that. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.